Minivac. Alright, so let's take you behind the scenes on how all vacuum cleaners truly work. Alright, so first things first, we all know by putting a new bag on a vacuum cleaner, it always works the best, right? Now when you put that bag on a vacuum cleaner, what always happens to the bag? It blows up, expands, right? Does it ever pop or burst when it's brand new?
No.
Typically not, because it's meant to move air. Air is meant to come in, air is meant to get out. But if air got out of a vacuum cleaner, what else is getting out? Dirt and dust, and that's the odor we get from time to time with the vacuum cleaners, right? Well, everyone used to complain about vacuum bags in the past, so vacuum cleaner companies got pretty smart these days. What they did is they came out with a new machine called the bagless machine. If you actually give this a feel, this is what vacuum bags are made out of. It's called Viscon. All it is a porous piece of paper for air to come in and air to get out. But the problem with dirt following air, dirt and dust got out, right? So that's where they got pretty smart these days, and they came out with a new machine called the bagless machine, because they figured if they could change the way the machine looked, well then us as a consumer might think it worked different. But that's just not the case, because what they did is they took that bag and pleated it up and made it into a filter base. Now, right? So now if you look at any of these bags or any of these filters under a microscope, what you get are these little tiny holes, right? And these little tiny holes is what allows airflow, all right? But the problem is we got two types of dirt in our house. We got small dirt and we got big dirt. Small dirt's the stuff that makes it out the tiny holes, all right? And that's the odor we get from vacuum cleaners. Then the big dirt, like dust and hair, that stuff that's a little too big, what it does is slowly but surely tend to plug up those tiny holes. So then now you have no more airflow to have dirt flow, right? Kind of hard to get the cleaning done. Just like in the same instance of, you know, the dryer, right? You got to clean that lint trap out every single time you do a load of laundry, because if those tiny holes are plugged up with the thin layer of lint, you can't move any air to dry your clothes, right? So that makes sense there, right? So let's go ahead and build you a miniature vacuum cleaner, all right? I want to borrow a little bit of your imagination, and we're going to build us a miniature Barbie Kirby, all right? I like to call it there. And we're going to show you this $5,000 vacuum cleaner behind the scenes on how they truly work, all right? So as I build this miniature vacuum cleaner, there's 4 basic parts in building a vacuum cleaner, right? You got to have an intake, right? You got to have a motor, which is the most important part, right? Then you got to have some type of bag or filter that catches the dirt, and then last but not least, you got to have an exhaust for air to get back out, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to borrow the motor from the TriStar. So I'm not showing you how the TriStar works yet, but I'm going to borrow the motor, and we're going to build us a miniature vacuum cleaner, all right? So basically everything that you see on this page, from upright bag to bagless machines to a canister machine to even to a tank or a water vacuum cleaner like the Rainbow. I'm going to show you how all of them work behind the scenes, alright? So let's go ahead and build this miniature vacuum cleaner. Alright, and of course if I was going to do the cleaning, it's smart to always put a new bag on the machine, because that's when it works the best. Alright, I want you guys to listen to the motor as I put this bag on that brand new vacuum cleaner. So here we go. Alright, so as I put the bag on the vacuum, what just happened there? We just lost power, right? We just restricted that airflow. Now that motor's working twice as hard. But then when you got these new bags these days that are called hypoallergenic, all they are thicker bags, right? So watch what happens here. We just lost some more power now. You hear that motor working twice as hard again. But then they got these bagless machines like the Dysons that have multiple layered bags and filters. Alright, here we go. Now you lost a lot more power than when you started the second of the cleaning, right? But why this machine works different than all vacuum cleaners is because it's engineered different. That's what I'm going to show you here in a second. So let's go ahead and build this miniature bag like your Kirby, alright? We're going to make it 10 times smaller, alright? So if you actually stick your finger in there, we can fit enough dirt in that miniature bag, right? Enough room to fit in there? Alright. So let's put the last piece to the puzzle, and there we go. From tip to toe, what we have is a miniature upright vacuum cleaner, right? You got your intake, your motor, which is not a good thing, your bag, then the exhaust, right? Turn it to the side, it's like a canister vacuum cleaner, all right? Turn it upside down, it's like a shop vac or a Rainbow vacuum cleaner, right? But they all do one thing, is move air to move dirt, right? So let's go ahead and do a little bit of free cleaning for you, all right? Now, whatever happens in seconds with my miniature vacuum cleaner is the same as what happens to your regular size vacuum cleaner in minutes, all right? Seconds to minutes only because this bag is 10 times smaller, all right? So before I do the cleaning, I want you to feel how much power we have in this brand new bag. Hold up your hand there. Got a lot of power there, right, John? Got a lot of power there, right, Mary? All right. So of course we got the most power with this brand new bag. So let's go ahead and do some free cleaning for you. I want you guys to let me know when you hear that motor get loud, alright? Tell me to stop, because that's not good for any machine, alright? So I'm going to go ahead and count this down. Here we go. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi, 7 Mississippi, 8 Mississippi, 9 Mississippi. Hear that motor racing? Alright? keep on vacuuming, right? How long does it typically take you to vacuum the whole house?
Oh, about an hour.
About an hour, right? I mean, if you were to do the cleaning, if I were to do the cleaning, how much cleaning could anyone get done with the vacuum cleaner?
Oh, wow.
Not much at all, right?
Right.
You want to know the most silliest thing about this is? That all vacuum cleaner companies know that this is going to happen. But you and I as a consumer, we can only think of one or two things. We either think we filled that whole bag up in the first 5-10 minutes of running your vacuum cleaner, or we clogged it up in the first 5-10 minutes of running a vacuum cleaner. What do you think we just did here today?
We had to have filled it up.
Filled it up. And most of my customers think we filled it up, right? But if you actually take a look inside my bag here, don't stick your finger in there, but take a look. I can still fit 95% more dirt in that bag, right?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Hey, and if it was full to the top, wasn't tons of stuff be pouring out?
Yeah.
Nothing's pouring out. Because what we did is we never filled the bag up, alright? What we did is we coated and clogged it. And as I open this up, I get to show you there, just like the lint trap in the dryer. It's a thin layer of lint and dust that covered up those porous holes, and now you have no more airflow. But no more airflow means no more dirt flow. It's kind of hard to get the cleaning done, just like, you know, no airflow is not able to dry your clothes, alright? So being that that makes sense to you there, let's go ahead and go back to something that you might be able to relate to. Remember going over that piece of string or piece of paper with the vacuum cleaner and not being able to pick it up, alright? What do we end up doing then?
Picking it up.
Bending over and picking it up, right? But that's the silliest thing you ever had to do. You know, you bought the vacuum cleaner to pick up that piece of string or piece of paper, but if they couldn't get it up here, do you think it ever had to get it, had a chance of getting anything deep down under?
No.
Probably not. Have you guys ever seen under old carpet before?
Yep.
Yeah.
What was down there?
Dirt.
Tons of it, right? You know, I used to have to shovel that stuff out, right? But ask yourself one serious question today. If vacuum cleaners were truly doing their job, should all that dirt and dust been left underneath the carpet?
No.
Of course not. That's the only reason why anyone's ever bought a vacuum cleaner before, right? But now that I took you behind the scenes and showed you how quick vacuum cleaners truly clog up and lose that power, does it make sense why all the dirt and dust was left underneath the carpet, or why you can pick up that simple piece of string or piece of paper?
Yes.
It's because vacuum cleaner companies knew within the first 5-10 minutes of you putting a new bag on it was going to lose 90% of that power. But isn't that the only reason why you bought the vacuum cleaner for? Was just to get the cleaning done? All right. Let me ask you guys here a silly question. All right. If you ever went to the store and bought a vacuum cleaner and you brought it home and on the side of that bag or on the side of the machine it actually told you not to pick up dirt, dust, or hair, would you have bought the vacuum cleaner?
No.
Of course not. That'd be pretty silly, right? That's kind of like going to buy a toaster and it told you not to toast bread, English muffins, or bagels, right? You'd have no use for that toaster, right? Well, let me ask you guys a serious question. Have you guys ever in your lifetime been bored to read a vacuum bag?
No.
No.
No. Okay, good. If you would have said yes, we're going to have to find you a new hobby, right? So here, today is, you're going to be the first time you ever get to read one of these. Because I figured if you would have known about this long before, I don't think you would have ever bought one of these. So let's go ahead and show you Sears Kenmore. We've all heard of Sears Kenmore before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sears Kenmore tells you, change bag often. What does often mean to you, John?
When it's full.
When it's full. All right. Mary, what does often mean to you?
Once a week.
Once a week. All right. But the thing is, if they told you to change it every 5-10 minutes, would you have bought the vacuum cleaner?
No.
Probably not, right? Because again, that gets pretty costly there, right? To change a bag every 5-10 minutes. But again, often can mean anything to anybody. All right. But what they're saying here is, Sears Kenmore tells you important. Find dust, powder, plaster, and cleaning agents or carpet fuzz will hinder cleaning performance or may cause your bag to burst. So you mean to tell me if we go buy a vacuum cleaner to pick up dust or carpet fuzz, it's going to stop cleaning performance? Well, isn't that the very reason why anyone's ever bought a vacuum cleaner for?
Yeah.
Pretty silly there, right? Well, here, what happens when that machine breaks? What do you go do? You go buy another one, right? So then someone tells you that the Eureka model was a little bit better, right? Well, I got Eureka here with me, all right? Eureka, all right? And let's see what their bag has to say. Change the dust bag frequently, all right? If vacuuming fine particles like plaster, dust, or fine road dust, or some fine particles can restrict very quickly and will decrease performance even before the bag appears to be full, all right? But does the bag ever appear to be full?
No.
No, it's always light and fluffy, right? But again, same thing. So when you go up and you go buy a high-end vacuum cleaner, you know, the ones that have the most power, like Kirby vacuum cleaners, right?
Like our
So-
Kirby.
So like your Kirby, oh yeah. Let's go and show you your bag here, which you never took the time to read. Kirby. What they tell you here is cleaning power. Maintain cleaning power by changing the bag frequently, especially when using your Kirby to pick up very fine materials such as plaster, dust, flour, or face powder, which is a nice word for dead skin. Listen to this. Very fine materials tend to clog the filter surface and substantially reduce cleaning power, even though the bag is not filled with dirt. But did we fill the bag all the way up with dirt? No, what we did is we clogged it up just to where we lost a substantial amount of cleaning power. But my whole thing here today is if you took the name off of the $5,000 vacuum cleaner, took the name off of the $50 vacuum cleaner, what do you still have?
Vacuum
Still have the vacuum cleaner, right? Now I'm not here to bore you and read vacuum bags to you, all right? But I brought some of the owner's manuals with me because if you don't have a bag to read, then you got to go to the owner's manual, all right? So what I brought with me here today is a few of the ones that are popular. We might have heard of the Shark Navigator, all right? Shark Navigator is pretty popular. Mary, go ahead and read that to me. What does that say there in the highlighted area?
Keep free of dust, lint, hair, and anything that may reduce airflow.
Do you have any of that stuff in your house?
Well, yeah, everywhere.
Wasn't that the reason what you bought the machine for?
Yes.
But they're telling us to keep free from picking it up because they know it's going to clog up that filter surface, all right? But that's a Shark Navigator, a little bit on the cheaper end, right? So then when you talk about these Dysons, right, Mr. Dyson tells you, as long as you follow my important safety instructions, it'll never lose suction power, all right? Well, if you actually read the Dyson Owner's Manual here, his important safety instructions, number 12 tells you to keep free of dust, lint, hair, and anything that may reduce airflow. But again, isn't that what we all bought the machine to pick up, right? So then now you get down to even the Oric, right? Oric's pretty popular with my retired customers, you know, because again, they only weigh 8 pounds, right? But right there they tell you disposable paper filter dust bags play a very important role in the efficiency of your Oric vacuum cleaner. The purpose of the paper bag is to trap dirt, but at the same time it must be porous enough to allow air to pass through. If the paper bag becomes clogged, no air can pass through the cleaner and cleaning cannot take place, regardless of the cleaner's power. Yeah, right. So it don't matter how much money you spend in power. If you pick up what they tell you not to pick up, you're not going to be able to move any more of that air anyways. Yeah, right. So again, that's kind of mind blowing because you buy a vacuum cleaner to pick all that stuff up, right? But they're telling you not to pick it up because they know it's going to clog up that filter surface. All right. Now, you guys understand why vacuum cleaners clog up and lose power now?
Yes.
And is that silly that they tell you not to pick up dirt, dust, or hair? That's the only reason why we bought it for, right? So I don't want to bore you and talk about vacuum cleaners no longer. Let's go ahead and show you what makes our machine work different. Sounds good?
Sounds good.